Welcome back to the Custom Cabinet Estimator tutorial series.
In this tutorial we'll be looking at adding rooms to jobs. From the dashboard we would come to a job, pick the job we want to use. We'll just use this one here. In the previous videos we went over these first two tabs from the job level of the job info and the client info, and in this video we're going to cover rooms and notes, and I'm going to start with notes and back up to the rooms tab because we're going to spend a little time there. These notes are both external and internal. Any note you put into this field can be printed on an estimate or proposal. It is not automatically included. It is a radio checkbox that you'll check to choose whether you want to show the notes or not. But if you have notes that are specific to the client that need to be transmitted to people in your plant or to people on job sites, anyone that would get the copy of the drawings that might need additional information, these notes can be helpful for that, even for directions to the job site. These notes down here are internal notes. They'll never print on a report, so if you put something in here that might not be too flattering to the client, as you see in this note here, that's okay. It's never going to print on a report unless you happen to be sitting across the desk from them showing them your screen. They won't see this note. So that covers this portion of it, the notes, and let's go to the Rooms tab. And from the Rooms tab, we've got a lot of options. So up here at the top we have some icons that represent some of the actions you can take. You can add a room, duplicate a room, search for a room if you had a long list, or you can delete a room. But when you're on this Rooms tab, we would prefer you to use this Add a Room button. That's the ideal button for adding a room. And then you also have the option to duplicate a room, or with the red X, you can delete a room. So if you had a long list of rooms, you could come in and just pick the rooms you wanted to delete. From here, you're going to add a room name. And actually, when you say add a room, you're going to get a pop-up box to do that. But the result of that pop-up box is going to be this room name field, this elevation field. And this elevation field could be used literally for north, south, east, west. Or if you were doing a commercial project and they had the elevations marked on the blueprints, you would use whatever their indication for that elevation are. Then you have a room quantity. And so if you've got exam rooms in a commercial project, you can change this to 2, 3, 4, 10, whatever it needs to be, and it will just duplicate the cost of that room. It will show that many rooms on the estimate. They would actually be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It wouldn't just combine them into a total cost. Then you have a sort order. And sort order comes in handy if you draw the rooms out of order of how you'd like to see them on the report. Typically there's a little bit of a hierarchy to an estimate or proposal. You normally would start with your kitchen and then maybe have a butler's pantry or something of that nature, master bath, and then on down to the secondary baths, basement baths, things like that. There's usually a preference. And if those rooms get drawn out of order for any reason, you can come in here and change how they'll print on the estimate or proposal by changing the sort order. And then you have the room status. It's just a pull down here, and this room could be at the estimate stage or a proposal stage, or could be completed, canceled, or in production. And it's kind of up to you to keep those things updated. All right, once we have all the details about the room like we want, and again, if we say here we want to add a room, this is the box we get, and we would come in here and say we have test room. The elevation is, let's say east. And we have a room quantity of 1 and the sort order, and you see that it's already counting for that we have a sort order of 1, 2, but we can again change that here once we add it. So we could add that room, and we're adding just an empty room, and it takes you right into that room. And the first question is asking you is, what do you want to make this out of? And so I'm going to jump back. I can use the back button or the rooms button, but I'm going to use the back button and jump back here to where we were and actually go into this first room. And you do that by clicking on this blue triangle on the left of the columns or the rows. Once you're here, you have quite a bit of information at the top that a lot of people don't recognize is actually usable. See how these things are kind of flipping from one color to the other as I go across them? So all these do something. So let's kind of look and see how all of this top navigation works before we go any further. First thing we see is also we have those buttons at the top that we had before, the icons, so we could duplicate this room from here if we wanted to. So if we were in this particular room, the Castle Dungeon 1, cold and damp, and we hit duplicate, we would get a copy of it with the word duplicate after it, and then we could edit it. We can also search for a room from here, or we could delete this room from here. Then we have this back button, and the back button takes you back to the Rooms tab where we came from. So we're back here where we came from. So that's one of the options, and I can go back there by going into the blue triangle. And then we have the actual room name along with the job name here. If we click on that, we get a pop-up box with the job details. So if we needed to change anything about the job details, any of this stuff, taxes, floor to ceiling heights, maybe one room is different than all the others or something, maybe the kitchen is a 95-inch tall in upper height and the laundry and bathrooms are 90-inch. You could change that here at the room level. And then as you come along here, you also have this rooms button, and the rooms button gives you another pop-up very similar to what we were looking at if we were to back up, except that it's just right here on this screen. We're not having to back up, and we can add a room from here. If we had a long list of rooms, it's a commercial project and had a long list of rooms, we could search for that room here, or we could just jump to another room. Right now we're in Castle Dungeon 1, cold and damp. We can jump to Castle Dungeon 2, hot and dry, by right there from that pop-up from this rooms button, and you see now we're in the Castle Dungeon 2, hot and dry. You can also click on that room name and edit something about this room name. If we wanted to change the name of this room, or the name of the elevation, or the room quantity, or the sort order, we could do that here, or even the status of that. Then we have this checkbox here, suspend automatic recalculation. So by default, basically going to be calculating as you work all day long. Everything you do, it's going to recalculate, and trying to keep this number accurate. And the larger the job gets, the more burdensome that is on your computer, and the more you're going to have to wait on something to happen. So even if I just check it now, and I'm going to cut this out once I do this, it's going to recalculate. And so you see here, there's only 22 items, so I don't need to cut this out, but you see that it's going to recalculate this whole job. Well, every time you do something that changes the price of the job, it's going to recalculate if you leave that on. Certain areas, anyway, that's going to happen. So you can turn that off by checking this box, and you also see that this number goes to gray when you do that, so you can't click on it to make it do anything, but that would also recalculate this job. And then clicking on this number itself recalculates as well. So that's an option. And then you have the notes button, which just brings up a pop-up of the two notes fields we saw earlier back here at this back button, and be at the jobs area on the rooms tab for that job. You would have these notes options, but you can do them right here at the room level. That's it for the second video tutorial on creating a job. Next we will look at the last of these 3 tutorials on creating a job in Custom Cabinet Estimator. Thanks for watching.